Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer, in that order. Welcome everyone. Today I want to do something a little more collector based, as I recently bought three collections. They were independent of each other, but they all had a very similar theme, and I thought the theme was very cool. It's the kind of thing that if I was like a pure collector today, I would probably put together a collection like that. And I'm not a pure collector today, but I thought it was very cool, and they weren't very expensive, so I thought there was some nice collector value. Thought I'd share here, and I wish I had recorded the collections as I had bought them, but I didn't. But yeah, we'll jump into that in just a sec here. Before we do, I have three channel announcements. I'll run through them pretty quick here. First is I'm going to be doing another question and answer video. If you have a question for me, anything at all about the hobby or a card or your collection or my channel or anything at all, feel free to leave it in the comments below. You can also send me an email, which is also in the description below, and I'll include it in the Q&A video. Second announcement is Collector Investor Auction CIA's February auction ends tomorrow night. Still plenty of time to jump in and bid if you'd like. Links to just follow along or registering to bid are down below. And Jeremy told me if you don't register to bid, he's going to send his CIA agents out to get you. And he told me to make that joke, so feel free to laugh accordingly. And third announcement's an unfortunate one. I appear to have been the target of a theft. I'm not really sure. But I sold these 7 cards on eBay. I dropped them off at the local post office on the same day, and they all just disappeared. They never showed up on the tracking in any way, and the local post office says they have no recollection of them. So I don't really know what happened. Perhaps somebody was targeting me. Perhaps they just, I don't know. But it's these 7 cards. If you happen to see any of these 7 cards out in the wild or online or something, they're pretty unique cards. You can see the PSA cert numbers on the Rusty Greer and the Babe Ruth in the top there. You can see the serial numbers as well on the back. And obviously I had to refund the buyer, so I'm out, a little over $1,000 here for these cards. But yeah, if you see any of these, please send me any information you may have via email, and I can pass it along to the police. But okay, on to today's video. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I recently bought 3 collections that just all randomly happened to have a very similar theme. One was baseball focused, and 2 were football focused. And I just really liked the theme. It really resonated with me for whatever reason. And what it was that the collector would try to get a rookie card of every notable player of an era of the sport. So, for example, in baseball, the collector was sort of collecting from the mid 80s through about the early 2000s or so, almost a 20-year stretch. And they were trying to get the rookie card of every notable player in there, and not just the key guys. They had the key guys. They would have all, they'd have Griffey, they'd have a Griffey card, a Barry Bonds card, a Derek Jeter rookie, etc. Most of those would be PSA 9s, I think, because they were trying to save money in order to get, more quantity of other players. But then they'd also have these second-tier players like you see on screen here: Mark Grace, Dave Justice, Jim Edmonds, Miguel Tejada. And each of these players had very good careers, but they didn't have sort of, Hall of Fame careers or all-time great careers. So, the hobby's sort of forgotten them over time, we'll say. But there was a point in time where these were major stars in the game. And if you think about who, maybe the top 10 names in baseball would be today at this very moment in time, maybe it's Ohtani and Judge and Bobby Witt, and there'd be some young guys like Paul Skeens in the mix there. But there was definitely a moment in time where all 4 of these names were in the top 10. Maybe it was for a week or a month or even, a season or multiple seasons. And basically everybody in the collection sort of had that feel. And it was just a very sort of cool trip down memory lane, and a very cool way to represent an era of a sport as a whole, with your collection. The 2 football collections, one was vintage, it was mainly from the 70s. The other was from sort of the 90s to the 2000s, we'll say, and included players like you see here: Drew Bledsoe, Donovan McNabb, Andre Johnson, Reggie Bush. And all 4 of these players were at one point in time major superstars in the sport, and, big-time names in the sports card hobby. Today, their rookie cards, even in PSA 10, just aren't worth a whole lot. And it's because while they had very good careers, they did not have all-time great careers where the hobby looks back and remembers them as really, really important figures. But if you, were fans while they were playing, that each of these players, had stretches of true greatness. So yeah, I just thought these were really, really cool collections, a really interesting way to collect. And it sort of inspired me to pick 3 names, one for each of baseball, basketball, and football for this video, and go over how great they were, even though basically at this point the hobby's forgotten them. And you can take a look at how inexpensive some of their key rookie cards are. And that would apply to hundreds and hundreds of names, for any era of any of the sports. But yeah, just handpicked 3 as examples. And full disclosure, I'm not actively buying or selling any of the cards in this video. And I'm not telling you to buy or collect this way in any way. Just as a way of collecting that really sort of resonated with me, and I thought I'd share. All right, we'll start with the basketball example, and for that I picked Jason Kidd, who's actually in the Hall of Fame, but Yeah, I mean, if you look at his card prices, you would say the hobby's basically forgotten him, even though he had a truly amazing career. He was a 10-time All-Star, a 9-time All-Defensive Team player, so he was a star both offensively and defensively. Won an NBA title. Like I said, he's in the Hall of Fame. He actually led the league in assists 5 times out of 6 seasons. That's a pretty impressive accomplishment. But what was really impressive, and I didn't remember this until I started doing this video, is he actually ranks third all time in career assists. That's pretty amazing, behind just John Stockton and Chris Paul. LeBron James will probably catch him, I guess, at some point. But yeah, I mean, nobody else is really even close, at least not anybody active. And he also currently ranks, well, by now he's third all time in career steals. So he's third all time in 2 very important categories, assists and steals, in both cases behind John Stockton and Chris Paul. He's 6th all time in career triple doubles. I didn't realize he was that high on the list. But look at some of the names right around him: Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Luka Doncic. Yeah, 6th all time there. And he's also currently an active coach for the Dallas Mavericks. He has a winning record for his career and took Dallas to the NBA Finals last season. So he's obviously a very important and relevant name in the history of basketball, no question there. But like I said, the hobby's sort of forgotten him over time. Basically all of his rookie cards ungraded can be had for under $1, such as this one, 1994 Skybox Emotion. That's a rookie card. You know, there's 58 cents on ComC at the moment, and basically all his base rookie cards sort of fall into this category. If you're at a card show, maybe they'd be in the dollar bin type of thing. If you wanted to get one of his rookies in, say, a PSA 10, like this Hoops, for example, which is a cool image of him going up to block Muggsy Bogues there, who's one of the shortest players in NBA history. But this PSA 10 Jason Kidd rookie, $40, you know, just struck me as like kind of cool collector value. Like if you know, a Hall of Fame rookie card, PSA 10, you know, all-time great if you watched Jason Kidd growing up and were a big fan. I mean, yeah, $40, it seems like nice collector value. But he does have a few expensive cards, not very many. But like, for example, I believe his most valuable rookie is the 94 Finest Refractor. And a PSA 9, for example, recently sold for just short of $300. PSA 10s get into the 4 figures. But yeah, if you wanted to splurge on one of his really, really rare, expensive cards, that would be one of your few options. All right, for a baseball example, someone sort of different than in a different category than Jason Kidd, and that's Johan Santana. While Jason Kidd's in the Hall of Fame and he you know, ranks high on some of the all-time lists, Johan Santana's his career numbers, you know, aren't really Hall of Fame worthy or not even close. 139 wins to 78 losses, a 3.20 ERA. You know, that's nice, but that's certainly not Hall of Fame worthy, at least not for the era that he pitched in. 51 WAR is pretty good, but again, it's well short of the Hall of Fame, and he didn't get any real consideration for the Hall of Fame. Basically, by the time he was in his early 30s, injuries ended his career and didn't give him any sort of real shot at all-time great status. But what's amazing about Johan Santana is his peak. His peak ranks way, way up there alongside some of the all-time greats. But he had a 6-year run where he was basically a Cy Young contender every single season. And, you know, he was getting MVP votes. He never finished lower than 7th in the Cy Young voting in those 6 seasons. But it's really this 3-year stretch from 2004 to 2006, which is truly remarkable. And again, really, really ranks way, way up there in terms of, you know, one of the greatest 3-year stretches of all time. Look at all the black ink in there, meaning the numbers that are bold, meaning he led the league that year in that category. In those 3 seasons, he won the Cy Young twice. He finished 3rd the other year. He led the league all 3 seasons in strikeouts, in ERA plus, and strikeouts per 9 innings, in a bunch of advanced categories. Led the league in ERA twice. He went 55-19 in those seasons, and he led the league all 3 seasons in pitching WAR. That's a really, really rare accomplishment, to lead the league in pitching WAR 3 seasons in a row. It's only been done twice since 2000. The other time was accomplished by Clayton Kershaw. Oh, by the way, he also pitched the first no-hitter in New York Mets history. So again, Johan Santana has been basically forgotten by the hobby. I mean, how often do you hear about a Johan Santana card? But there's no question that he was an absolute phenomenal player for a stretch there. And if you were a fan of baseball in those years, you absolutely remember him. He actually has very few rookie cards. His rookie year is 2000, and most of them can be had raw for just a few dollars. Here's a 2000 Fleer Tradition Johan Santana rookie. Asking price is $3.25. If you wanted to get a PSA copy, a lot of his rookies are really, really low pops in PSA 10, so really hard to find. But for example, his Bowman's Best rookie here from 2000 and a PSA 9 recently sold for $30. And there's a couple higher end rookies that can be really hard to find. There's a 2000 Finest Gold Refractor rookie. This is actually serial numbered out of 100. This BGS 95 sold for $300 plus a few years ago, but actually one hasn't popped up for sale since. So, if you wanted to, if you were a Johan super collector, this might be a tough card to find, but this would be one to chase. All right, and for our football example, I chose Terrell Davis, who in my view is in a similar position as Johan Santana, although he actually is in the Hall of Fame, but it's really because of his just unbelievable peak. He only played 7 seasons in the NFL, incredibly short career, and even more amazing, he really only played 4 full seasons. His last 3 seasons were all basically half seasons or less because of injury. He really only played 4 full seasons, but his 3-year run from 1996 to 1998 is as good as any 3-year stretch for a running back in NFL history. In those 3 seasons, he was first team All-Pro all 3 seasons. He won an NFL MVP award. He had over 2,000 rushing yards in 1998, when only a small handful of running backs to accomplish that. 49 touchdowns, 5,300 yards over the course of 3 seasons. Absolutely insane 3-year stretch. Again, one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time when you factor in the postseason. In that 3-year stretch, he won Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos twice, including the Super Bowl MVP in 1997. He is still the all-time record holder for career rushing yards per game in the playoffs with 142.5. And look at his career numbers in the playoffs: over 1,100 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns in just 8 games. If you sort of extrapolated that out over to, say, a 16-game season, he would absolutely shatter the single-season rushing record and the single-season touchdown rushing record. And again, this was in the playoffs where you're facing, in theory, some of the better defenses. So again, perhaps the greatest 3-year stretch for a running back in NFL history, especially if you include the postseason. But for the most part, the hobby's, forgotten Terrell Davis. You don't hear a lot about high-dollar Terrell Davis sales these days. Most of his rookies from 1995 can be had raw for just a couple dollars. Here's one of his sort of fancier rookies, 1995 Crown Royale Terrell Davis rookie. It's a die cut. It's listed for sale for $4.25. If you wanted to get one of his rookies in, say, a PSA 10, you could go for the Collector's Choice Update PSA 10. Recent copy sold for about $86. And he does have a few higher dollar rookie cards, kind of like the other players on this list. There were some rare parallels in 1995, including this one here, 1995 Select Certified Mirror Gold Terrell Davis rookie. It's actually a really nice looking card, but this PSA 10 copy sold for a little over $500. And they don't really get higher than this. Like he might have a really, really rare 95 parallel that would outsell this one. But, for the most part, this is as expensive as a Terrell Davis rookie can get. And just sort of compare that to the sales we see of active players today, where there's regularly 4-figure, 5-figure, 6-figure sales on certain players every week. It just sort of feels like, $500 for perhaps the best rookie card in a PSA 10 of this player who had the greatest 3-year stretch in NFL history for a running back. It just sort of feels like it's, decent collector value comparatively, at least, especially if you were, a fan of his at some point. But that's it, just sort of my thoughts after buying these collections. And again, these 3 players were sort of picked just as examples. There's probably hundreds of players over the years in the sports that fit these sort of examples. So hope everybody enjoyed, and would love to hear your thoughts. And if there's any player that sort of meant a lot to you, whether they were great or really, really relevant, or you're just big fans of them and the hobby's sort of forgotten them over time, would love to hear about it in the comments. But hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.